Welcome, everyone. This is our monthly district webinar series. We are going to just do a short one today in light of everyone being busy working with your fall data. So I'm just going to be doing our usual just quick updates on what is happening. We also wanted to post some videos for anyone to look at if you haven't attended a workday. And we're having some trouble with our data events website, so we will we are working on that now. We can't get the videos to post on here, but I will share this link with everyone. So this is our help knowledge base site that the help desk is put together, and there's actually videos down here at the bottom. You can see a recording of the fall workday advisor presentation, as well as a recording of SRS's presentation down here at the bottom. So let me pop that into the chat for everyone. Definitely, if you haven't attended a workday, and I guess we still have one more on the schedule and you can't attend that, at least I would definitely recommend you check out the two videos at the bottom here. All right. As usual, we'll also get my slides posted on here after our meeting today. And also sometime in the next couple of days, we will open up the registration for the November 10th webinar, which will, as usual, be a new button up here at the top of this data events page. All right, let me get into my update here. Like we said before, go ahead and use the Q&A function in Zoom, and I will go over that to answer any questions. All right, so our October update. First, just a couple of the usual updates about where we're at with the current school year. So compared to a month ago, now all SIS vendors are certified or conditionally certified. And Glenna was saying you can't find the video. It's these links at the very bottom of the knowledge base workdays link I just sent out. So literally where it says here and here at the very bottom. So some updates here. So all the vendors are certified or conditionally certified. Conditionally certified ones mean that we still have some tests that need to be finished up, and I do intend to follow up, and hopefully we'll get all the tests and bugs from the tests worked out for all the vendors over the next probably month or two. As usual, if you wanted to see anything about the status of your vendors, you head over to our vendor certification page there, which is also available through our advisor resources page, which I hope everyone is familiar with. As you probably know, but just to be clear, the fall collection for 21-22 is happening now. This is, where your official membership counts are defined. as well as a lot of other things. You can refer to our calendar on the Advisor Resources site if you want to see more about what is collected in the fall collection. As well as your staff data is due as well at this time. So the fall advisor data is officially due October 15th. And like usual, we will then have our audit window for doing data checking. And then your fall data is locked midnight on October 31st. We will have a separate district administrator sign off for your fall data. We are trying to open that a few days, maybe more like 3 days before the end of the audit window. So I'm guessing around October 28th, maybe the 27th, we should have that open up. And we'll put a notice up on the site when that goes live. One more update about 21-22. Last month here, we talked about a new calendar event code that I thought we were going to add, which would be marking your school or calendar as closed for COVID-19 when there's no education at all happening. We're not going to be implementing that code though, so you can forget about that. After talking with the data that was really needed, talking about that, we kind of determined that really what the data that would be desired is at a classroom level, and there's really just isn't anything in Advisor for being able to report that. So so yeah, we're not going to have that code. Ellie was asking about learning modality. So yeah, that's a good point. Learning modality is something different than closures. So learning modality just means anytime a student is learning outside of the classroom. So either they're full-time remote or students that are in hybrid, you know, some days in class, some days out, or however your hybrid system would work. So that is a learning modality when and well, technically in classroom is a learning modality, but we don't care really about collecting in classroom. We assume your students that are in attendance are in the classroom unless you tell us using your learning modality that the student is actually learning remotely. So I believe all vendors now have learning modality code available. So you can be sending that to us now. We do have a learning modality report available in Advisor Validation as well. So you can verify some of the data that's coming in for that, just to see if that's working as you might expect. So I would definitely recommend everyone check that out. I imagine a lot of districts have already had cases where they might need to use that data by this time of year. Some more updates about new things for Advisor this year. We're still working through a few issues and some details with the new transfer out exit codes, especially with optioning students. I think we will be releasing a tweaked version of the systems while student reporting, just to clarify some rules about option students who are in a special purpose school. So accordingly, and because of the time of the year it is, we just decided that we're not going to activate any new validation errors related to our new transfer out exit codes until at least after the fall collection window is done in November. So we will get back into that then, but nothing to worry about for as far as the fall window goes. Barry is asking, does system involve students report replace the who reports what? The answer is no. I think maybe some things from the who reports what got moved over into the systems involve students. And then we added more cases in the system involve students document. You know, it's just kind of big enough that it's its own document now. So if you are on our advisor resources page, you will see both documents here. So we'll continue to have those as two separate documents in the future. See, Anna is asking, have we gotten any clarification as to how long a student has to be remote before learning modality is reported? Technically, it would just have to be a day, as just that's the way the data is structured, that it's part of, you know, we collect start and end dates. So technically you can send a learning modality that's just one day. We're still talking about if we could set a larger practical limit than that. If a student is quarantined for 2 weeks, if they should be reported, that's definitely what the intention of the learning modality is for. It's, you know, if someone's quarantined, so they're working remotely for 2 weeks, this would be, learning modality would be the way to report that, assuming that student is you know, working from home and counted in attendance. Right, Casey asked, many students working remotely for 5 to 14 days. Again, yeah. Yes, that is the intention of learning modalities, to report them. Casey, when you said they require individual learning modalities, really the way it's set up is you can just set up a one modality program called full-time remote, assuming that's what these students are doing. And then you actually assign that full-time remote program to the students individually. Now, your SAS may handle that in different ways, but really it's kind of like assigning kids to a, you know, free lunch in their food program. It's, you know, there's one free lunch program basically, and you just can set multiple students in it for whatever start and end date is required for that student. Thank you. Those good questions about the learning modality I didn't have on here. All right. And just an update on new things remaining to be added. So I mentioned any possible warnings or errors related to the transfer out exit codes. Another thing that's still on our list to add would be a new report that shows you your instructional unit calculations that's calculated from your course and section records. So we'll be looking into that after the fall. I guess I should also mention that the career ed programs of study reports are not yet turned on for 21-22. Again, that's a report that's based off of your course section data. So we'll get that turned on soon. Would the learning modality be used to report all ed students? A question from Emily. No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, learning modalities just saying, is the student in a classroom or are they learning from home? Technically, I guess you could have an alt ed student that learns from a home, but I'm not sure if you would even have that data to be able to report it. But to me, alt ed and learning modality are two different things. Patty asked about the verification reports. The printed copy does not show state aid reports, but in the portal they are fall review. I do believe we could probably add those to the list. We do sometimes make updates to that on the website. We update that column that says when to look at the reports. I believe, though, the state aid reports are definitely part of the fall review time. So yeah, we can look at that in the handout we have. Anna asked about learning modality. Is that when they're participating in class remotely synchronous, or could it include students that are asynchronous? I think it would include both synchronous and asynchronous. I would say, yeah, especially as long as you're considering that student in attendance, then I think I think a learning modality could apply to them. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what a student that's only working through Odyssey courses. I'm not sure how districts would consider those students, but I'm not aware of any reason we couldn't receive a learning modality record for them. All right. Naomi was directing me to the reports.
Yeah, if you open the article attachments at the bottom, there's a little box to the left there,
okay.
Max. Yep. And then if you scroll down, there's a verification reports item attached there. And in the fall section, it does list state aid reports. So that should be a current version for your use.
Okay. Thank you. I did not see that. So you can hit the attachments link at the bottom of the help page that I put in the chat earlier, and we've got documents there as well. Thank you. Oh yeah, let me put that in the chat again if anyone needs it. Go ahead and hit that, Patty. Another question from Emily. Is there any state guidance on how to take attendance for asynchronous students learning remotely? I don't. I mean, the state doesn't provide a lot of guidance about attendance. We have talked about this before. We do provide some guidance, but ultimately attendance and absences definitions we let districts decide those. We probably could refer you to one of our rules for the specific language about that, but I'm not off the top of my head. I'm sure where that is. So Emily, if you want, please send an email to our help desk and we can refer you to that language. I think we'll have to go. And I remember we've talked about that like 2 years ago or a year ago, but it's been a while for me. So, right, another question from Terry. And OPS has virtual schools where all the students are full-time remote. Yeah, I do believe you should report all of those students under your full-time remote learning modality. So Jean, your ill students are marked as absent, so do they still need a modality marked? Not really. If these students are totally absent, they're not they're not doing any learning, they're not doing any work from home. So if they're just absent for that time and not doing any learning, then you don't really need the learning modality record for them. It really is. I mean, you could report that record, it wouldn't hurt anything, but the learning modality is primarily in order to tell us what students are actively learning in attendance and working, learning from home. But yeah, if you do report the learning modality for those students while they're absent, if someone already has that set up, it wouldn't hurt anything. Alrighty. All right. Next, I just want to talk about the follow-up collection a little bit, and just go over again, why we do the follow-up collection, and just to help clarify the timing of when all this data is being collected. It does get a little confusing around this time of year. So the 2021 follow-up collection is the collection that just finished. That data was locked October 2nd. Primarily, this follow-up collection is for getting new updates in your 2021 data, particularly for SPED data, SPED exiters, anyone who exited over the summer. Graduate data, dropouts, and anyone who's changing their status there, as well as any summer course data that needs to be added. So now this year, that we always used to have the fallout collection in the fall and the New Year's fall collection due at the same time, but we split them up this year. So according to that, we now have 2 different district sign-offs. So the follow-up collection sign-off for district administrators, hopefully everyone should have signed off already, but it is still open. If any district administrators have not signed off on their follow-up data yet. So what else we're doing with that is, at this point, NDE, we're still working through late requests. There were several people that had technical issues with their 2021 data during the follow-up window. We're working with them. Any late requests that have come in, or anyone who had open tickets when 10.2 came. So we're going to get that corrected data worked out. And then technically what happens behind the scenes is I'm taking the corrected data and putting it into a locked follow-up database, which we do, take a copy of the data on October 2nd, and that is kind of our locked data that we're correcting. You don't get to see that data directly in your reports though. And mainly the reason why is just for simplicity's sake. So a lot of our reports already have a lot of different reporting window options. So the way you will see the data though is once all the late requests are finished, I'll be moving that corrected follow-up data into the year-end snapshot, locked year-end snapshot reports for 2021. And I'll only really be moving the data that is part of the follow-up collection. So for example, absences data, absence in your ADA, ADM data that was locked in June and is not part of the follow-up, and it's already been locked down, and it's being used, I believe, for state aid. So for example, that data is not something that will be changing. Whatever's in your year-end snapshot right now, your locked year-end snapshot for your attendance data should not be changing. And just so you know how we're using this data, so this is the essentially becomes your final 2021 data as far as accountability data is concerned. We use this for federal SPED reporting. That final 2021 data is reported up in first week in November. As well as this will be the data that shows up for your graduate cohort rates and your dropout counts on the NEP. So we're working to hopefully finish all these follow-up late requests by the end of this week, so that we'll start being able to use that data. I believe we should be updating the NEP Secure, by the way, with your graduate rates, so you can preview that before it goes public at the end of October. So we'll send a notice out when the NEP Secure is ready, but we're hoping to do that around the end of this week or the start of next week. So if anyone here is still working through late request with their follow-up data, please follow up with us in your ticket if you're having any problems and you aren't able to get that resolved. We may be able to help you. And last note, then, like I said, since I kind of consider that data finalized for 2021 after all the lookup changes are included, this is when we update the lookup reports in advisor validation. It's probably in November or before then in this month. We will update advisor validation, so the lookup reports are pulling that finalized data. All right, let me go back to the questions real quick. When does the digital equity report due? We would like the digital equity data by the end of October, if possible. We've just basically included it along with the other demographic data that's collected in the fall. Although you are, of course, available to update that all throughout the year, just like any of our other demographic data. If you didn't know, the digital equity data is reported under the student demographic record. Deidre asked, I have a ticket, but what happens when we approved our 2021 data with no errors and we now have 3 SPED errors? It's possible that your data was correct already on October 2nd, and that was the data we have saved off for you. But if you're not sure, put a comment on your ticket, Deidre, and we could double check that. All right. Well, Peter, if you could put a comment on the ticket so we can track down what data you're talking about, let us know. So yeah, please do it through the ticket system there. All right. Moving on, I wanted to just kind of show, a little chart I drew out to help keep this stuff kind of clear for everyone. So this is what a typical school year would look like. While we technically, consider the school year as being everything from July 1st to June 30th, technically we collect data for that school year for that school year, it goes for basically 12 months after the end of the school year. So the fall collection period could start as early as August 1st. That's when Advisor first opens for the new year. Although we don't typically have all the vendors updated and certified and ready on August 1st. So you are, getting access to your data around this time frame, and the fall collection goes to the end of October, like I mentioned. The year-end collection, I mean, technically you're sending year-end data now, but just for simplicity's sake in this chart, I've just marked the year-end collection as going from November 1st all the way till June 30th when the school year ends. After that, we're immediately in the follow-up collection. Starting July 1st, you can continue to send updates to this school year. July 1st until October 2nd. That'll be our new date for the follow-up collection every year. And then something that people may forget, and we don't really give this its own separate collection. We just mention this in our year-end collection. But even after October 2nd, you can still send us data in that year for two things that are both postgraduate related. One is the postgraduate activities data that is for career ed Perkins reporting. So you can send that data. Right now, you could still be sending that data for your 2021 graduates, and you have up until June 30th of 2022 right now to send us that data. As well as the data for the special ed post-school survey for sending the student address for your SPED exiters who graduated. So it's kind of have its own window. It really, but like I said, we just in our documentation you'll see it mentioned in the year-end collection where we say, look at the postgraduate activity of the previous year. So when you put that all together, where you have multiple years stacked together, this is what it looks like. So this is where we're at right now, October. We're in the 21-22 school year. We are in the 21-22 fall collection as far as collecting data. But we've just finished the 2021 follow-up, but we're now in the point where we're collecting 2021 post-grad data. And I drew this out just to be clear. If I move this red arrow to every month, you'll see there's always two lines. There's always 2 years of data being collected. The current year and the prior year, basically. So people are maybe forget about this, and it's kind of confusing with when you think of your year as done back in June when you roll your SIS over to the new year. But keep in mind, we're always able to collect that data for the prior year. And we always technically have 2 years open. So, like I said, there's always 2 school years available in Advisor for this. One thing to mention, and I mean, this is really more for the vendors in the districts, but I'll be really trying to get the vendors to focus on this for next year. Just to be clear, each school year is kind of a self-contained EdFi Advisor database, which has its own codes and rules. And that does not change when the new school year begins. So for example, right now, or in the follow-up window when you were sending any 2021 enrollment records, if you had a kid who transferred out, in the 2021 data was still using the 201 exit code. whereas the 21-22 would be the new codes. And I believe there was some trickiness to get that to work with some vendors, and hopefully I'll try to work with them to handle that smoother in the future. And just a reminder, any data that gets deleted from your live ODS, even after the school year's done, like this 2021 data, like enrollment records, programs, courses, stuff, it has the potential to cause issues. I can't say that, you know, everything that is missing from the live ODS database, meaning the live 2021 database, would cause a problem if something gets messed up, but there's a potential to cause problems there, and so I worry about that. You know, for example, the enrollment record, you know, at this point in 2021, we are, like I said, collecting post-grad activities. But if something happens and like the enrollment record of your graduate gets deleted, at this point, we've already got the locked data for your graduation cohort rate, so that's okay. But you wouldn't be able to send us any post-grad data if you've deleted that graduate from your 2021 enrollment. So generally my stance is try to keep all the live data from the previous year in good shape, although there are sometimes exceptions to that. And also, if you're confused by this, I should mention that some SIS systems handle syncing any prior year data for you, for the district, without having a user interface, versus others. Some systems, you know, you just flip back to the prior year and then do your syncing under the prior year like normal. So that's really, if you're confused by that, you know, you can follow up with your SIS vendor. Right, that is everything I wanted to cover for this month. Let me go back, check out a few questions. If you've got any more questions, go ahead and pop them in the Q&A now. So Katie, you've got 10 kids that exited over the summer and are showing as an error in advisor. That wouldn't have anything to do with those new exit codes that I was talking about, I don't think. And like I said, we haven't turned on any errors specific to those new codes. So I'm assuming there's some other issue with if you're seeing errors right now, and the error description should hopefully tell you where to look to resolve that. But if you're not sure, you can always send a ticket here to advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org so that our help desk can work with you. When asked if a student's cohort is 2022, but they only get SPED services, do they take the state ACT test? I'm not sure about that one offhand. Yeah, please send us a ticket for that. We'll talk to the assessment team about that one. Katie said if the error is students without enrollment record exit code. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Or they're kids, you're getting the error, I would presume, for kids that you haven't reported in 21-22 because you meant to exit them. So yeah, you may have to submit a summer exit for them if that's the situation you're talking about, Katie. But yep, please submit a ticket there. Alrighty, like I said before, this is all we had scheduled for this month. check out the documentation and the recordings of the Workday presentations here. If you haven't attended a Workday, I think it's definitely useful to at least be aware of what is covered in those presentations. We always cover anything that's changed for the window that we're in. And like I said, you'll use our data events website here. We're going to update it in the next couple of days, likely, so that you can register for the November webinar. We have a fuller schedule scheduled for November, and this may be subject to change as well. So we'll also send out a bulletin about this new, about the next webinar once all the content has been confirmed. All right, I'm not seeing any other Q&As. So I think we are done for today. Thanks for joining, everyone. And like I said, if you have any more questions, please send us a ticket and we will answer them or route them to who can. All right, thanks, everyone.